It's Sunday, you know what it means when it's Sunday. We do a list type video, and this week I wanted to do something completely different and give you guys a list of the 10 best artists of the past 5 years. Or, I guess another way to word it would be the best artists around right now. I thought this would be a fun video based on a little mini discussion I had with Buffalo Staple in a Discord server where we were talking about the current best artists. And it seemed like a good idea to do a list of what are the best artists around right now. Contrary to what some people out there may believe, who have perhaps some backwards ideas about modern music and it's all terrible, there's actually a lot of great music around at the moment. And I think if you're clicking on this video, you are someone that is aware of that already. But there are a lot of artists that deserve highlighting and praising for their current output, and I thought it would be good to touch on 10 artists here that have had a really strong past 5 years, whether it's through their releases or the fact that they have maybe seen a lot of growth in their output or their fan bases and the audiences have grown, or perhaps it's in fact the critical acclaim that they're getting, all those kinds of things. And I guess the main criteria here would just be that they've had to at least put out a couple of releases in the past 5 years. I don't want to see one artist with one album who've only dropped maybe one thing or one project, because I think you need a consistency. You need that multiple release droppings to sort of see a trajectory of the progression, or perhaps the artist is consistently putting out great stuff over the past 5 years. So there's not going to be someone like Beyonce here who's only had one album in the past 5 years, although she is worth mentioning because it was an excellent album. But we're looking at artists that have been doing it over a period of time, who have kept it up and are still dropping great stuff, and perhaps their futures are even brighter than what they've given us so far, because some of these artists I think could potentially blow up to huge levels if they keep going at the rate that they are. There are lots of great artists that won't even make this entire top 10 here. Anderson .Paak, The Beths, among many others, Ichiko Aoba, who have had strong releases over the past few years. There's no denying that. I could name many more, but I just wanted to narrow it to 10, keep it at 10 for the reasons that I'm going to explain in no particular order as well. I'm just going to reel off these artists, not going to do a 10 to 1, because I think it'd be pretty hard to rank the past 5 years of an artist when all these different artists are totally different to one another. They have totally different styles, and perhaps you may get some new recommendations here as well, because some of these aren't as popular as others that will be mentioned. So let's get on with it. Starting with Australia's own Hatchie. She has had a fantastic 5 years because of the releases that she's been putting out and the growth that she's seen with her most recent album, Giving the World Away, as well, which saw her delve into a stylistic change in some places with the kind of baggy Manchester sound that came through. It was really cool to see her delve into different sounds because of the shoegaze elements and the dream pop elements that were prominent on her debut, which was 2019, were fantastic and executed flawlessly, really. She is a wonderful singer. She has a really blissful and cushiony and cloudy and pillowy sound that is just absolutely to die for. And to see the progression into some newer styles is exciting and makes me think that she is a really a huge force to be reckoned with at the moment, I think, in indie music. And yeah, I think she is one to watch out for in the next few years. We also have had a few new tracks that are going to be appearing on the deluxe edition of the album, which, as of recording, I haven't heard that. I think it will be out by the time this video comes out though, which is a bit annoying because of the timing of recording it. But I will say, for the purpose of this video, the tracks that have come out for that deluxe edition so far have been quite good as well. So there you go. You've had 2 excellent albums and you've had a deluxe edition with extra tracks as well. What more can you ask for? Leave a scar on my soul, 'cause it's smarter to fold. I take you better when you don't even... Have to mention my guy Brakence as well. I think Brakence has had a really strong few years, and I think his trajectory could see him catapult into huge audiences at some point. I can see it for Brakence, because I think there's a style, there's a uniqueness, there's a swagger about him, there's a lot of personality that comes through as well, and also there's an emotional arc which I think a lot of people will get connected to as well, particularly younger audiences who perhaps like that emo side of things. There's a lot going on with Brakence's music. It is creative. There are hyperpop elements again, which is a really modern sound. There's pop punk coming through at times. There's just so much going on here, and his melodies are just fantastic. Every track is memorable and catchy and sticks with you. I love this guy, and he has had a lot of releases over the past few years. And even Punk 2, which I never liked initially, has really started to grow on me. So yeah, there you go. Plus that, and the EP that he dropped, which has got some of his best songs as well. And then Hypochondriac, which for me was my album of the year last year. But even if it's not your personal album of the year, I think you could get a lot out of that album, because like I say, there's so much going on. It's busy, it's hyperactive, there's a lot of styles being fused together, it's super creative, and not really many artists out there are sounding like this right now for me. So I think Brakence has to be mentioned here. He has been excellent. Gotta mention Tyler, the Creator, as well, with the Ego release, which elements of that album have started to grow on me. I will admit, I will say when my opinion changes, because it often does with a lot of albums, and I'm starting to see the vision with that album. Initially, I found a lot of the vocal modulation on that thing a bit irritating, but I'm starting to hear glimpses of nice ideas coming through. I think in terms of production, there was never anything wrong with that album. Production-wise, it was super creative. It did win him a Grammy, a literal Grammy, by the way. So yeah, that on top of Call Me If You Get Lost, which is just an excellent album anyway, and a Grammy win, and the deluxe tracks that have just come out for the estate sale as well, which could easily have some of his best songs ever with time passing, because good God, Stuntman, Sorry Not Sorry, like the range of emotions that you're getting from Tyler tracks nowadays is insane. His maturity, his growth has been so unbelievable to see. And while Flower Boy hasn't been in the past 5 years, I guess you could say it started from then and has been just going upwards since. So yeah, I think Tyler, Creator at the moment in terms of hip hop and rappers is up there with one of the best. And I think with another great album, if he can drop another great one in the next couple of years, he will seriously be viewed as one of the best rappers of the past 10 years. Because when you put some of his older stuff behind him and you're looking at just the newer stuff, man, the quality is really, really high.
February 31st, 2163, I was there, but could not.
Have to mention Black Midi. I think anyone watching this video was hoping to see them pop up, because they have literally been insane over the past 5 years, have been prolific with output, with their absolutely off-the-wall live shows, which I've never unfortunately gotten a chance to see, but just with everyone speaking about what they do in their live shows and the talk and the buzz around them and the quality of music that's been coming out over the past 3 albums in these 5 years has been absolutely insane. And Schlagenheim was an album that kicked it all off. You've got the singles that came that didn't quite make the album as well before that. You've got a Cavalcade release, which is a good album, but probably my least favourite of the 3. And then Hellfire, which came out in last year, is possibly their best one to date for me. Just the manicness, the ridiculousness, the bonkers approach to some of the tracks, the vocals, the drumming. One of the best drummers around, by the way, which has to be mentioned. The drumming is unreal in this band, like absolutely insane. So for me, with having all of these qualities put together to create some of the most interesting and weird music out there at the moment in the rock world, they are one of the best artists around easily at the moment. After that manic mention, we got to mention someone a bit more, I guess, palatable and accessible for wider audiences. But I want to mention Jessie Ware. I think Jessie Ware has had a really strong few years. Her growth as an artist and her audience growth has been really great to watch. I think that in itself is worth noting, because again, I think with the new album that's on the way, again, unfortunately, it's not going to be out before this video, but with the singles and with the just really carefree and uplifting feel to her music, you can't help but feel she could have a massive hit coming up soon as well. I thought there would be something, at least one slither of a hit coming from her 2020 album, What's Your Pleasure. Sadly, we didn't see that, but maybe this new album could see that as well for her. But even regardless, the mainstream might not necessarily pick up on her straight away, but the quality of the music is definitely there. That was a really strong release from her. The deluxe tracks as well. It's like a running theme on this video with all these deluxe tracks, but the deluxe tracks for What's Your Pleasure were really good too. Some of her best songs came up on there. And then of course we've got a new album on the way, which I think is set up to be a really strong release. So she might not have had as much music as of yet as some of these other artists that I'm mentioning in this video, but the music that we have had and the music that we're about to get, I think, could be pretty damn great. Gotta do Jean Dawson next. This was actually the spur, the inspiration for this video, because when I was talking to Buffalo Staple, this artist came up, and Jean Dawson, man, had 2 excellent albums under his belt already. Really, really strong run of releases. I'm super impressed with what we've gotten from Jean. The debut album with excellent tracks like Bruise Boy on it, the sort of like young spirit, that kind of like youthful energy that comes through his music, I think is really, 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 really like has so much potential for that kind of audience, those young people to kind of gravitate towards his music. It does feel weird that he's not bigger at the moment. I don't quite get that, I will say that. But yeah, the second album that came out, oh no, well actually it's the 3rd release of their music so far, but the second album that has come out in the past 5 years, I mean, again, came out last year. Excellent release, a bit more on the rockier side of things, but the anthems were just buzzing the whole way through. The choruses popped off like crazy. There's just so much to like. There's that punk spirit, that punk energy coming through Jean's music that can appeal to all kinds of audiences, while also just having that creative edge. Like he's got it in him to do that Irish sounding song which came at the end of the album. Not many artists can do that. I don't know, man. I've been really impressed with Jean.
Cutting through the jungle in an all black fitted hat, low incognito.
Little Simz has had a crazy few years. Absolutely robbed of a Brit Award. I'm sorry, Adele fans. I like Adele too, but absolutely deserved to go to Little Simz. I know people would have gotten really angry about it, and people would have been like, "Who's Little Simz?" Well, their album, man, Sometimes I Might Be Introvert was so much better than the Adele album. I'm just sorry, it just so was. It was a fantastic release that brought a really, really elegant and theatrical and just absolutely like organic and beautiful side of hip-hop out that we haven't really heard from the UK at all. Like, she is a UK rapper and she's making this really expensive and luxurious sounding album that sets her aside from not only just her UK contemporaries, but anyone in rap at the moment, really. I think the style that she's gone for on that album was excellent. And not only to mention that one, but we had Grey Area in 2019, which was a really great introduction to her. She'd had albums before it, but that was the breakout album that really got people turning their heads. Because her music before that was good, by the way, but that was the album. So many great tracks on that one, Boss and Venom. And then she surprise drops an album at the end of last year. So she's had 3 albums and an EP in the past 5 years. And to be honest, the consistency and the quality of all of those projects has been really high and has really cemented her in the conversation for me as being one of the best rappers out there at the moment, because the quality of the releases so far has been super strong. She's one of the best rappers out at the moment, easily one of the best, if not the best, from the UK. She's having a great 5 years and she can easily top that as well in the next 5 years. I've got a soft spot for Aries and he had to be mentioned on this list. Aries with his Welcome Home album, which I didn't like at first at all. I really didn't like it, but really grew on me. Has some excellent songs on that thing. And then of course, the 2021 release. which ended up being my second favourite album of that year. So close to being album of the year, and is so replayable. It's short, it's catchy, it's got some of the best pop songwriting of the past few years for me, has some of the best hooks in the game. Again, similar to Gene Dawson and maybe even Brakence, that kind of youthful spirit comes through, which just makes you feel so young, you know? And I feel like there's so many young people out there that could really gravitate to this type of music. I'm surprised he hasn't taken off yet with at least a couple of hits. Some kind of TikTok single or something like that. I really don't understand how it hasn't happened, but maybe it's going to come in the next few years. We shall see. But these past few years for Aries has put him up there, one of the best around for me, easily. I just raved about their most recent album, the live album from Black Country New Road, but it's really not easy to forget how good their past few years have been as well. And it's been consecutively, year after year, on the bounce with their 2021 release, their 2022 release, and then a live album in 2023. It's actually been crazy how good the music's been, to say how little time there has been between releases. It's been pretty much just a couple of years since their first album. And man, they've had a great time too. Of course, they've lost Isaac, and I think that may have had an impact on where their progression was going to go. But with the fact that the latest album, the live album, could possibly be, for me, their best album to date, hasn't really hindered the quality at all. It may lose a few fans along the way, but I don't know, man. I think tracks like The Boy and Turbines, Pigs, Across from the Pond Friend, are so beautifully written that it's going to be hard to just let go of their music completely. And to be fair, it may even add a more accessible sound to what they're doing for new audiences as well, because Isaac was quite weird with his lyrics. He was quite abrasive at times as well with the way he sang. Perhaps this more chamber pop direction could introduce newer fans, but even still, regardless of any of that, their music has been so good over the past few years. They have to be mentioned with Black Midi, because both of those bands came up at around a similar time and are doing some great things in the UK music scene at the moment. It's really cool to see. I've given you 9 so far. We are on the 10th pick now. Natalia Lafourcade, who has had a great past 5 years and has put out a lot of music in these past 5 years as well. And the quality has been really, really strong. We had the album in 2020, which was my favourite album of that year. Got to be mentioned as one of the best albums of that year for sure. It was so beautifully put together. Then, of course, the volume 2 of that album came out the year after. And then last year, we got her most kind of like detailed and extravagant sounding albums to date. At times, the vocals were certainly not as pretty or as, I guess, kind of like magical as we've heard on her previous albums, but she went in a bit more of a darker tone, let the instrumentals kind of take a lot of the tracks. It really sank into you. Initially, you're not quite sure how you feel about it, but it really grows on you, and you quickly realize how fantastic what she's doing on that album is. It's a great album, and she has had multiple great albums over the past 5 years, and has seen success in, you know, her home country as well. While she isn't maybe one that Western audiences are constantly talking about or constantly discussing, she absolutely should be, because she is really that good. And yeah, her music has been brilliant, and she's got to be mentioned as one of the best artists of the past few years for me. And that's it. That is my video. I'm going to end it there before my throat dies, before it gets too sore for talking for too long. But thank you, as always, for watching. Please check out more videos of mine. Please let me know what your picks would be. If you just want to limit to 5, if you want to add 10 picks, if you want to make it even bigger than that and go for 20 artists, you absolutely can. But these, for me, have been the best artists of the past few years and are some of the best artists around right now. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. It's a little bit different to what I usually do, but thank you for watching as always. Check out my Patreon as well. You can request more videos like this and more in the future. Have a good day, subscribe, and goodbye.